Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, One Piece chapter 1045 is out. If you guys haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. So, once again, Oda proves that he knows what the hell he's doing. Probably not a thing that is talked about too much, but with things like One Piece, it would be very, very easy, natural, I would say, for it to go dark and kind of lose the spirit which it started with. Just think about it, especially with something like One Piece or other series that have been going on for a very long time. What a story is almost a constant escalation. You've got to constantly be ramping up the stakes, or it will feel redundant, it will feel repetitive, it won't feel like it's going anywhere, and you'll lose people's interest. So, like for instance in fighting, right? Like first you get in a fight, and you win. Then you get in a fight and it's maybe a little bit more competitive. Then you get in a fight and you get hurt, and then somebody dies. And then, you understand what I'm saying? This is how just it works. Your enemies get stronger, the scale gets bigger, the problems that you need to solve even more impossible. Meanwhile, the best stories need great characters, and these great characters are supposed to live in this world, experience these events, and it's natural, I would say, for them to be changed by them. And I think that this has been roughly the expectation for Luffy from a lot of people for a long time. And things like Luffy should take the new world more seriously becomes a legitimate argument. You can't win if you're fooling around. You can't win if you punch before you think. Luffy, you're a powerful pirate now, with the responsibility over not just your life, but the lives of your crew, and the lives of every friend that you have, basically. Any mistake you make resonates far beyond yourself. You owe it to all of them to change and grow. The world around Luffy and the events taking place to him and around him are encouraging him to change and grow. But he hasn't, and in most respects, he probably won't. I feel like this is probably one of the biggest talking points of the recent chapters. It's really interesting to me that in order to prevent Luffy from changing and growing, Oda actually has to work pretty hard in establishing who Luffy is and why it's important for him to be that way. At the end of the day, right, this is Luffy's the hero of the story. He's going to save the world. He's going to change the world. And so Oda's got to have an answer for her. He's got to answer the question of how. Luffy's the hero, but how is he going to change the world? How is he going to save the world? And it's one of those things that if you're a foot half in, half out, if you don't know what you're doing, I don't think that it works. Especially since Oda has chosen what I think is a unique course of action. You gotta really stick to your themes. You've got to hammer them in beyond doubt. Some of this obviously is speculation, but Luffy is Joy Boy. Luffy is the boy of joy. He spreads joy. He spreads laughter. Smiles and laughter and joy and things that create that are important to the story. So while it's natural for the story to go more dark, and some people want the story to go more dark, to be more serious, Oda can't. Luffy can never lose the thing which Oda has decided is going to make him, or has already made him, Joy Boy. And as much as some people may want to wring their hands in frustration for, getting a fun chapter like we got today, rather than maybe what they were hoping for, that's the point. It's literally the point. Oda is hammering it in. This moment here exists to confirm, without doubt, that Luffy's never going to change. At least not in a profound way in terms of his personality. No matter how serious or unforgiving the world is, Luffy's never going to stop smiling. Which is, talking about foreshadowing, right? The D smile when or before they die, it's very obvious. That's not to say that there can't be things that happen that make Luffy want to lose his smile. I'm talking about events like Ace, but that is not in-game Luffy. That's not where Oda wants to take him. That is an obstacle in the road because Luffy came out of the box as the right guy. I think that a lot of people fall into this trap of what's most realistic. But saving the world, what's most realistic here is probably not what's going to save the world. Let's just be honest. You need the right person with the right disposition to hold the power and influence others. Oda's married this concept to the story. First off, it's a joke manga. It's a light-hearted, fun-loving, swashbuckling adventure. It's really been right in your face through the entirety of the story. Talk about like Mihawk mentioning Luffy's great power to create allies. He creates allies in part because he fights for them, right? And those moments can be very tense, very serious, very dramatic. But, the source of that really is that he cares about them, and inevitably they care about him. And why is that? It's because Luffy is goofy and likable. We could get into the technicalities, the specificities of this, but it is really that simple. It follows in this order. First and foremost, Luffy is a goofy pirate who makes friends. And then, secondly, he's a badass pirate that defends his friends, taking whatever body gets in the way. I guess all these recent chapters just have me thinking about One Piece, what it is, why it is, and really appreciating the art behind it. Thinking about how hard Oda is working to maintain the spirit, the soul of One Piece. I think it was just 6 or 7 chapters ago, we were talking about maybe the tone of the arc finally switching, right? And getting to the end of the arc feel of desperation and intensity. And it's just spectacular how exactly opposite Oda has chosen to go. And that's not a criticism. You guys know that I love One Piece when it goes dark. I think that those are some of the strongest moments in the series, and I know that I'm not alone. Like Ace's death and Whitebeard, and there's just so many examples where Oda really goes in. I don't think that I think that people read these chapters and think, oh God, it's like this is not the way that I wanted One Piece to go. But it's like this is still going to happen, right? Those emotions are part of the story still. But it's Oda's job to choose when and where. And here Oda has clearly put his foot down. This chapter, it felt like early One Piece, like Luffy fighting someone like Don Krieg, and that's entirely the point. This moment, this scene, this fight, Luffy's powers exist to emphasize Oda's direction of the story, who Luffy is, all of these things that we've been talking about. I almost feel like because Oda says it so loud and it is so clearly intentional that you can't help but to like it even more. Eventually you realize that life is a game of power and everybody has some, and everybody wants to exert their power to control things that they care about and influence into a way that they prefer. And it's just so absurdly obvious as you read this chapter and the last one that Oda is an immovable fucking object. Again, this is not a criticism. It's his story told in his way, his vision, and people's pathetic attempts to try and force him to do something other than what he wants to do is a waste of time. This is like the moment where you must accept that One Piece is what it is, and stop trying to make it out to be that other thing that you liked first. It's not Naruto, it's not Black Clover, it's not My Hero, also not Hunter x Hunter. It's not Yu Yu Hakusho, it's not Berserk, it's not Dragon Ball. There may be things from these other series that you like more. There may be things from One Piece that you like less, or that you don't like at all, and if that's how you feel, more power to you. But One Piece is what it is. While certain pieces of it reflect other things that I've seen or that are popular, you put all those pieces together and there is nothing like One Piece. This feels like the lesson of the chapter more than anything. Let's just real talk for a moment, right? I know you guys can't hide. I see you. Probably half the active community of One Piece is from people that liked something else first, right? Like Naruto ended, lots more One Piece fans. Even as of recently, right? It's like, One Piece is this big thing. I like long-running shonen. We're going to check this out. But in your minds, right, there's an idea of what you want. And that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong about that. But I feel like sort of subtle here, low-key, is that people interpret things in a way in which they prefer. You see this a lot with theories, right? And this is true of me as much as it's true of anyone else. You prefer to speculate things that you actually like. And the same thing happens as you follow One Piece. where I feel like people exist under this delusion that One Piece will become what they want it to become. People expect things to occur that they see as being the best options. It's a natural thought to each individual because it's the best option, of course. It's going to be the one chosen, but it's a delusion. The best option is slightly different for everybody. I think at the start of One Piece it was kind of open-ended, right? But I feel as if there's a lot of people that, even as they read some of the early fights of One Piece versus Buggy, versus Don Krieg, particular moments, maybe like, for instance, in Thriller Bark against Moria, where they just assumed that because they thought that it was better, that eventually One Piece would lose that goofy edge, or that it would be shuffled to the back burner, become something less emphasized, bringing to the forefront other things that maybe you liked more. Again, real talk, One Piece has a very diverse repertoire of emotions at which Oda is able to elicit, right? Like, yes, Luffy is goofy, the story itself is goofy at times, but there's other emotions too. There's seriousness, there's brutal, One Piece has a moment, I think, for essentially everybody. And you can get this when you talk to anybody because, generally speaking, right, you ask anybody and they'll tell you something different that they liked the best or the most. But the point that I'm trying to get at here is that not everybody enjoys all of these emotions the same. I know a lot of people, whether they admit it or not, that don't find One Piece particularly funny, despite the fact that it's supposed to be one of the main draws of the series. They read every chapter and they skim over the goofy moments, the funny moments. It's okay, but that's not what they're looking forward to. That's not what has them hooked. I think that this is one of the greatest challenges and also one of the greatest accomplishments of One Piece is that it is so diverse. Many things are one note. One Piece is not. So I think that it's good perspective for anybody as you read the series to realize, look, there's many things which comprise One Piece, and Oda has the ability and the prerogative to choose, what each moment will feel like. The thing about One Piece that he's going to draw to the surface. And this chapter, I think, really brings it back to its roots. The first and most important aspect of the series, even as we are at endgame and the stakes couldn't be any higher. To quote my friend Grand Line Reviews, One Piece is still a goofy pirate manga. But anyway, I've talked for a while here, sort of sitting on my soapbox, but there's a reason why I'm saying all this, is also to remind you guys that One Piece is very diverse. It consists of many emotions, and I feel like a lot of people read a chapter like this and think, oh, One Piece is ruined because I don't like this. This isn't right, and it's like, you hear some people say, oh, you don't like it, drop One Piece. It's like, you understand that One Piece is diverse. There will be, I guarantee you, probably in the same arc, a switch of the tone. In fact, I think that Oda might have alluded to that in some intrigue from this chapter itself. While it is very important that One Piece remains a goofy pirate manga, and Oda is re-establishing that, putting his foot down, making it very clear, this is One Piece, it will never go away. Although this may be true, One Piece still can't be exclusively defined by it. Or at least there's another moment that you have that is going to come, that is going to be a moment that better suits you. I feel like people have very selective memories when it comes to certain debates or discussions yeah, One Piece is a goofy pirate manga, so you must like this. It's like, come on, not everyone loves everything. That will never be true. It's okay to read this chapter. This isn't my experience, but it's okay as a fan to read this and for it to be disappointing to you. I think that you can't control that. A lot of people had this idealized image in their minds of what this fight would become, and I think essentially nobody predicted this. Everyone was wrong. Everyone. I think that when we look back on this fight in the coming months and coming years, I think that people are going to acknowledge that this was a massive, subversion of expectation, which emphasizes that One Piece is truly a work of art, a masterpiece in its artistic execution. But maybe it's important here to emphasize, right, that art doesn't have to be good. You understand that? Like, I think that a lot of people sort of conflate these things like, oh, well, art is anything that's really good that I like. It's like, no. Art is not defined by whether or not you like it. Art is not defined by popularity. Let's read the definition, because why not? The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. One Piece is absolutely the highest tier of art, at least in my opinion. And it is simultaneously true that great art can also be disappointing. As much as we, as a society or as the world, applaud creativity, the vast majority of creativity goes unappreciated. Because we like certain things, and we want to see those things and feel those things exactly in its highest form over and over again. Creativity is very selectively liked. And so it makes it all the more special when you have very creative, highly subvertive moments that are also liked. And newsflash, I know if you go onto like social medias and stuff and you see this discussions, it's easy to sort of lose this, but the vast majority of One Piece fans love this. The sheer amount of engagement and support is truly mind-blowing. And it was creative. I at least appreciate this massively. But anyway, guys, I've talked about this too long, but overall just, relax, right? Like, if you like this, and the vast majority of people do, then feast, my friends. And if you don't like this, for whatever reason, your experience is your own, then relax. A chapter will come that you like more. Guaranteed. This will not break the story. I promise you, Oda will not forget the other parts of the story that made people love it. But this one is absolutely for the OGs. So without further ado, 17 minutes in, let's talk more specifically about the chapter. The chapter begins with what I interpret to be a confirmation that Luffy did in fact die. Haha! To all those people out there who said that it's absurd, of course Luffy didn't die, that's ridiculous. JB, you're the worst, you don't understand the story at all. I'll take my W on this one. Actually, Oda kind of delves back into this, I feel like, later. It's of course not 100% clear, I don't want to say it like that, but, as it appears to me that it's essentially Luffy's awakening, which is keeping him alive. As soon as the power runs out, it's almost as if Luffy instantly starts dropping dead. Oda also talks about the special heartbeat that the Nika fruit gives Luffy. Like, the impression in my mind is that the devil fruit is keeping his heart beating while it's awakened, but when it stops being awakened, his heart then stops beating. Momo even comments in this moment like, whoa, his voice is disappearing again. I think that it is fair to speculate that Luffy is quite literally a dead man walking. And this was kind of what I was alluding to when I was talking about, well, this is a very happy-go-lucky, fun, goofy chapter, but like other emotions are in store for us. This isn't outright stated, right? So this is still speculation, and as with all speculations, it can be wrong. But that being said, as I'm interpreting the chapter, it gives me the promise of some heavy vibes sometime soon. If Luffy is literally already dead, that the awakening is the only thing that is keeping him alive, you have to ask, well, eventually the powers are going to run out. We've learned through others and recently with Law and Kid that using a devil fruit awakening, that you can't just keep it on all the time. It doesn't work that way. So eventually Luffy will run out of steam, and at that point, what now? As just a reminder of some of the theories that were made about this arc prior to the events of the arc, which might be worthy of keeping in mind, is Law's immortality, surgery, perennial youth, or whatever that is. A lot of people for many years speculated that Law would essentially save Luffy by sacrificing himself using his devil fruit ability. That's in play. Another one is that Oda dropped a hint, a clue in Drum Island that Luke visited, some mountain somewhere in the world, the Far East, and that's where he came to find the cherry blossoms, the sakura blooms that he thought was a panacea that would cure the hearts of anybody. Long story short is, a long time ago I speculated that this mountain, this place that Luke visited in the past before coming to Drum Island, was Wano. So in Wano you would find some kind of panacea, cure-all. I also feel like this is in play. But either way, I'm really excited to see what comes of all this, especially with the lanterns, the Fire Festival, communicating with the dead, how that might tie into Luffy. Obviously, we know Zoro's situation as well. It just feels like this is going somewhere. But in the meantime, Luffy is fighting Kaido. He is still currently awakened and clearly not dead. I really like how Oda had Kaido spell out some details about Devil Fruit awakenings. Kaido says, "It should be safe to say you awakened your Paramecia fruit, but something about this feels off. A transformation like this is more typical of a Zoan fruit." So it's basically Kaido is revealing that when Zoan fruits awaken, the appearance of the person or who is eating the Devil Fruit changes. I'm curious about the official translation though, because Kaido is somewhat wishy-washy. He says a transformation like this is more typical of a Zoan fruit, not like definitely a Zoan, or Zoans always transform their appearance. So it seems like, based on at least the unofficial translation, Oda is keeping his options available for sort of unique circumstances. Devil Fruits, regardless of their class, awakening in unique ways. But as far as Zoan Fruit users awakening and then their appearance transforming, I would say that this is, outside of the specific wording, is kind of what we expected. If you guys recall back to Impel Down, we supposedly met awakened Zoan Fruit users who looked very derpy. But yeah, we're clearly different from regular Zoan transformations. I still love the theory that when Chopper used his Rumble Balls and unlocked Monster Point, that Monster Point is Chopper's awakened fruit appearance. So I would say that that's sort of like my placeholder, my current headcanon for, roughly speaking, how other Zoan Fruit awakenings will feel. Regular Zoan Fruits. But as we know now, Luffy's fruit is not a regular Zoan, it is a Mythical Zoan, which increases the hype level like through the roof. But the thing about the Mythical Zoans, which I like the most, is there is some element of like magic that Oda adds to the fruit. Like something about the Mythical Zoan, he takes something from lore and then creates a power from it that's very unique. Marco's flames heal. Sengoku's Buddha has Zen Shockwave capabilities. Orochi can die multiple times. So in this case, Luffy's magical attributes that are given to his fruit are something similar, I think, to other devil fruits that we've seen, other Paramecia devil fruits that we've seen, like Jola. You guys remember that person who could turn people into art? That seems very similar. Devil fruits exist, which are capable of augmenting or transforming reality. But the interesting thing here is that Luffy only really unlocks this ability after he's awakened the fruit. But in every other example of Mythical Zoans that we have in the story, they don't need to awaken their fruit to unlock their, a magical attribute. So I think that we should be asking, what is the magical attribute of the Gomu Gomu no Mi, of Luffy's fruit, naturally, before awakening? We listed off all these things that these other users can do beyond just a transformation of their body. I think that it's possibly important that Oda has chosen to exclude revealing this detail. I think that maybe it's easy to say, well, Luffy his body becomes rubber-like, and then he awakens and he gets all these powers, but I think that he needs a power first, in his normal state. Something that he's used throughout the story that we have not paid careful attention to. I've mentioned this before as something that I'm not necessarily wanting. This isn't what I would choose to do. But we made the whole spiel at the beginning of the video so you understand that my vision is not Oda's vision, but I think that you can't ignore the possibility that Luffy's fruit, the magical tribute, Orochi can survive, be killed multiple times, Marco's flames heals. It's possible that Luffy's devil fruit allows him to make friends easier. His fruit by nature spreads joy. Using his devil fruit, he can in some way lift people's spirits. The reason I don't like this is because I like that to be Luffy's ability by nature, not the devil fruits. We talked about that before, but I want to throw that out there. Another idea is that there's elements of this fruit which Oda has tied to imagination. Like Luffy, imagination can transform the world around him. So is it possible that something related to this is the magical attribute of the fruit normally? The fruit grants Luffy creativity. Honestly, it's kind of true that in most circumstances, Luffy is not particularly creative, but when it comes to his devil fruit and his applications of them, he is. And even outside of his devil fruit, there are certain moments where Luffy is insanely creative, where, like jumping out of the cake, for instance, that was Luffy's idea, and you can say, oh, well, Luffy is just really silly and just has hilarious, intrusive thoughts that he must act out. But, I mean, you can't help but wonder, is the devil fruit influencing him? And again, just to be clear, this effect, or whatever effect might exist, it doesn't have to just be on Luffy. With Marco's fruit, assuming that he hasn't awakened, I don't think that he has, or at least we haven't seen that yet. His flames heal himself, but his flames can also heal others. So this is definitely, I don't want to get too specific, but this is definitely something that I'm going to look towards and is prime opportunity for theory crafting. But there's more to talk about here with Luffy's situation currently. He's awakened his fruit and been given additional magical properties. So for me, it creates the expectation. I mean, Luffy's is the only mythical zone that we've seen awakened that every single mythical zone, if it is awakened, would get another new power. And honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is Kaido. Has Kaido awakened his dragon devil fruit? I mean, I know it feels as if the fight's coming to an end, but Kaido seems to know a lot about awakening. Is what we're seeing, or what we have seen, already that? Like, has Kaido been awakened throughout the fight? Or could we see it? Or even with Momonosuke, whose powers are very similar. Kaido gets defeated here, but is there something else? Something that would be added to it that would, is still yet to be revealed. But anyway, another interesting fact about Luffy's devil fruit, Kaido comments on this, and I think that this is important. Kaido says, damn it, how are you doing this after Luffy had transformed his body into rubber? He says, your body is meant to be rubbery, not mine. Taking ourselves back to Doflamingo when he explains awakening, he says, an awakened user transforms the world around them into their fruit. But he doesn't transform, or Doflamingo doesn't transform people into string, just like rocks and buildings and that sort of thing. But Luffy is literally transforming Kaido. This was incredibly noteworthy that when I read the chapter at first, it didn't quite dawn on me. Obviously, it led to some hilarious and absurd moments where Luffy pops out of Kaido's eyes, right? And you're like, whoa, what the hell is going on? But it is truly a unique capability of Luffy's devil fruit. Even Kaido is surprised. This is not how Paramecia devil fruits or zone fruits are supposed to work, even awakened. Personally, I really, really hope that Oda continues to delve into not only the classes of devil fruits and their awakening, but subclasses as well. When you have a devil fruit which can change the very nature of people, I feel as if it's special, even among other awakened mythical zones. Like, as an example of this, and this is purely speculative, but it's a speculation that I really like, I like to think of Moria, Law, and Big Mom's devil fruit of being almost a grouping that of a subclass of fruit that specifically interacts with the vital components of life. Law's fruit gives him power over bodies of vessels. Big Mom's fruit gives her power over souls, and Moria's fruit gives him power over shadows. You put all those three things together, maybe with something additional later, and you have pretty much the things which make people. Although they are all Paramecia fruits and you can lump them in together with other Paramecia fruits, for me, they're a special grouping. Another example of this is And it gets really convoluted, obviously, but you have Blueno's door fruit, and then you have Charlotte Brulee's mirror fruit. Both create basically another dimension which you can interact with and enter. I think that it is a less special grouping, but still a grouping. So essentially here, what I'm kind of excited for, and all my hopes and dreams are not riding on this happening, of course, but I really want Luffy now to have a legit god fruit. Even among all the fruits, it's within a particular grouping that is the most powerful or the most important. He can apply his devil fruit directly onto other people and change their very natures. Physically for sure, but what about mentally? But anyway, the battle continues, and we see that it is not going to be that easy for Luffy because, just a straight honest truth is that up until recently, it didn't appear as though Luffy had done that much damage to Kaido at all. Finally, we're making some gains, but Luffy is damn near death, and Kaido looks tired. Oda is recreating the sensation that, hey, this battle is not over yet. It's possible that Gear 5th isn't going to be enough. I thought that it was a beautiful moment after Luffy's powers had run out, and they talk about Luffy himself. You're about to croak, or I'm about to croak. This is taking a lot out of me. Kaido says, well, you can just go ahead and die. People will tell stories of your great battle. But Luffy doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about himself, his legacy, that sort of thing. That isn't why he's fighting, and Oda makes that abundantly clear when Luffy gets back up and reawakens his fruit. He says, we're not done yet. Isn't that right? Momo, Tama, Kinemon, Pedro. Luffy is fighting with other people, for other people, both alive and dead. There's really quite a lot to unpack in just these few panels here, some of which I find very difficult to form into words. Luffy says, I don't care about the legacy of this fight. When you're dead, only your bones stick around. That should remind you of Bink's sake. Line in Bink's sake, doesn't matter who you are, someday you'll just be bones. I think reading Bink's sake can kind of unlock some of the hidden messaging that's going on here. Everyone dies. And once you die, you're just bones. Some other lines here, waving our goodbyes, we'll never meet again. But the thing that carries on is something more ephemeral, like your dreams. It's about realizing that yourself, you, are not very important. Even the greatest of achievements, the most heroic events, the most profound and noteworthy people will eventually be lost to history. They'll just be dead. At the very best, confined to some sort of book somewhere, and for the vast majority of people alive, forgotten about. I'm reminded of Dr. Huluk's quote in Drum Island. When do you think people die? When they are shot through the heart by the bullet of a pistol? No. When they are ravaged by an incurable disease? No. When they drink a soup made from a poisonous mushroom? No. It's when they are forgotten. It's a very powerful quote. But it's also true that eventually, everyone will be forgotten. Given enough time, it is inevitable. Eventually you die. And then cut this with Gold Roger's quote. Inherited will, the destiny of the age, and the dreams of its people. These are things that will not be stopped. As long as people continue to pursue the meaning of freedom, these things will never cease to be. As long as people continue to pursue the meaning of freedom, these are things that cannot be forgotten. They cannot die. They will never cease to be. Do you guys see how I've connected these? There are things that transcend life, and your own personal accomplishments in this life are not one of these things. They are things that can only really be enjoyed while you are alive. Whether that means until your heart stops beating or until you are forgotten. But in this, I think that, it kind of says something about Luffy's mentality, a deeper understanding he may actually possess, if only by intuition. There's no joy in death. Luffy will never pursue death. While he has the ability, he will never succumb to death, because the things that he loves exist in life. Death only leaves your bones, which is a beautiful and artistic foil to Kaido, who says that death completes a person. Luffy obviously disagrees, and that is the subtle, very subtle conversation that's taking place here. But Kaido points out what could be seen as a contradiction. It's like, why is Luffy fighting? If he doesn't want to die, if he wants to live and enjoy the pleasures and the joy of life itself, then why is he doing all this? Why is he risking an end that he does not value? It's not for himself, it's for other people. So Luffy, in a sense, is on a path to kill himself in order to fight for others. And the reason why this contradiction is not a contradiction is because although Luffy doesn't want to die, he doesn't fear it. After all this, do you really think something like death can scare me? It's all very powerful to me. Luffy is like this chaotic force of freedom, jumping from one pleasure to the next, letting it take him wherever it will. Dare I say, wherever fate, destiny, and the will of the people decide. But things like death or the fear of death can't stand in Luffy's way, or he can't allow them to stand in his way, because it just doesn't work. You can't do what you want. You can't live freely if you're constrained by the shackle of fear. But yeah, I really did read all of that into the scene. I hope that I explained my thoughts here well. If you wanted some poetic shit, right? JB gotcha. It's a big reason which puts this chapter on another level. Like, full disclosure, full honesty, I like the comedy in One Piece. But it is not the single thing which I enjoy most. I enjoy this, what I just explained to you, the most. Unraveling puzzles and putting the pieces together in unexpected and interesting, thoughtful ways. And it was there too. I don't know, guys, there's just something so incredibly special about the genius of One Piece being hidden in absurd, childish comedy. The fact that it speaks at all levels is profound beyond description. Kind of like Luffy right now as I'm reading this, I am truly having the time of my life. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much what I had to say today. Obviously very excited to see where we go from here. But as always, I'm curious as to what you guys think. Whether you noticed something from the chapter that I might have missed, just share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video, subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.